Hello, everybody. Welcome to Conservatish episode 249. God, I'm prolific, aren't I, Ash? I'm
Notorious.
unstoppable. I'm what in the who?
Notorious in New York,
Notorious. I thought
right?
you said Latoya.
Oh,
I'm also
that's dope.
Latoya. Hi, everybody. My name is Latoya, Peter Edgar Feliciano. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. Make sure you share this or you're racist. And you can support my podcast, music, and all the memes and stuff I create at patreon.com/conservatish or over on Venmo at Peter-Feliciano. Yay! Our guest today is Ashley Ash. Yay!
Hi.
Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, we're going to be talking about all kinds of crazy shit. But first, can you please tell everybody who you are and where they can find you?
Oh, okay. So I'm always terrible at these. These always freak me out because I'm all over the place. I'm a little bit of everything. But my name is Ashley. I'm born and raised in the New York City suburbs, if the way I speak doesn't already give that away. And former teacher that escaped that and has kind of trying to break out of the matrix in all different ways. And I know that's such a cheesy, overused word, but really, I mean, it kind of is what it is. So like that's my thing. I like talking about weird stuff online because I was a weird kid in that way, loving aliens and everything. So I'm like, why not be a weird adult? And I guess that's kind of the little, I don't know, the little intro snippet. So if you want to find me online, my live streams are just casual, laid back. Let's chat about weird stuff. Live streams, High Strangeness with Ashley Ash. Oh, thank you. So I think you would do youtube.com/Ashley Ash now. On Twitter, I am Ashley is Ash _. And then I got a link tree over there with everything. I'm really bad at promoting myself and introducing myself, aren't I?
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. Here's your link tree. There we go. There
Thank you.
she is.
There's me.
Lovely. All right. Fantastic. No, you're doing great. That's lovely. Let me stop the screen. There we go. And put it back to, okay, fantastic. Yes. Hello, Latoya.
Hello, Miss
Hi.
Melissa.
Hi, Ash. Ada says. So let's get right into this shit. You used to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of teachers, mostly ex-teachers on my show, and they say similar things, mostly because both of them were the ones that come to mind. Both of them were public teachers, public school teachers, government teachers, as they say. And I've heard some crazy stories. I've heard some real bad racist, implementation of good intentions that cause kids to not be able to learn and not be able to live. One of them is a guy named Nico. Shout out to Nico. Summer Schooling on YouTube. Talks about the problems of being a government teacher, talks about what's happening to kids, besides all the trans stuff and whatever. We could get into all that. But what was your experience? Did you want to be a teacher when you were young?
I guess like maybe I was one of those kids who didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, but I'm like, okay, I have fun teaching Sunday school and I have fun working with kids. This seems like a natural progression. So I went to school with that. I got my bachelor's and master's because in New York State, they want you to have your master's and spend as much money as possible, get in as much debt as possible. And I felt like from like when I started teaching to when I finished my master's, those 6 years, like teaching had changed entirely. And I mean, and at that point I already had it. So the degrees and the certifications, I went forward and started working in it and it went well. But there's just an environment in the schools. It's just a very oppressive, miserable environment. And it just doesn't feel right. And I was like in one of the great school districts in the area, but there's just this heaviness to it. So besides all the politics and the ridiculousness and having your hands tied with what you can teach and what you can't teach, there's just a vibe that I didn't like. And I'm like, that's not healthy for kids. Kids are supposed to be kids and have fun and learn in fun ways and not be tortured, because they come out like hating learning, hating reading. There's no natural curiosity. So it's like something is wrong here. So it was partially that. I'm like, this is not me. How can I be this? How can I teach this? And then on top of it, And it's like, maybe the superficial stupid part, I hated the grind of teaching. I don't like doing the same thing every day. That was like torture for
Right,
me. So
right.
I'm like, I can't do this the rest of my life. So I escaped it. Last time I set foot in a school was fall of 2019. So
Wow, you got
yeah,
out right in time.
years, yeah.
Well, how long did you do it?
I did it from but then that's gonna date me, right? Everybody's gonna know my age. I did it for long enough. I did it for long enough.
Long enough.
Long
Okay.
enough to like where the other teachers were like, "Good, you're getting out young before you
Mhm.
entrench yourself." So enough time
Mm.
to be like, "Ooh, this sucks," but early enough to be like, "Oh my gosh, that's great." Because it's interesting. A lot of teachers, since I've left, like took relatively early retirements. Like, I don't know, like when you were in school, weren't there like teachers in their 70s and stuff? They would
Yeah.
stay a long time. They're not doing that anymore. And then on top of that, it was interesting because as I would talk to teachers that knew that I didn't want to do this, they're like, yeah, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't tell people to do this. You're doing the right thing. That's such, they're like, so like, I think that's kind of telling.
Right. The fact that people who had the job for a while, so it must be a cultural thing as well. I can't tell you how many times just people teachers who are doing their best, teachers who are
Mhm.
doing, whatever, are overwhelmed,
Oh yeah.
overworked. It's hard enough to deal with, kids, especially, depending on the, eighth graders and,
Mhm.
whatever, or kindergartners. But then you mix in crazy, crazy or frustrated, rightfully so, parents,
Yeah.
who are wanting things that are impossible, or who are wanting extra focus, even though you have 40 students, and you're now beholden to the government. You're now
Oh
beholden
yeah.
to these institutions that already don't make any sense. Um, but yeah, I can't. I mean, I can imagine because I've heard all the stories. But when did you first kind of start to feel like, was your first starting, initial feelings of this isn't right? Was it overwhelm? Was it anti-government feelings? Was it like, what was it for you that made you start to go, what was the first time you were like, wait a second?
It's funny because that kinda goes back to middle school. Like, I started realizing the indoctrination in middle school. I'm like,
Hey, wait. When you were in middle school?
when I was in middle school,
Oh, I like that.
I'm like, we're supposed to be learning history, and there's so much of the teacher's opinion, and it's so like this and that, and this is bad and this is good. And as a kid, you understand the fact between opinion, sorry, the differences between opinion and fact. So I started realizing it then. Then I saw that all throughout high school, and and then of course you completely see it in college and grad school because they're indoctrinating the teachers that are going to go out and indoctrinate the children. So you like the materials they would make us read, some of these people. I'm like, okay, this is so clearly there's an agenda. There's not nothing unbiased about this. So I started realizing that whole time. And actually during grad school, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not into this, but I'm like, why not just get the degree and finish? Because you're dumb and you're a kid and you don't realize, well, that still costs money that you're going to be paying for years. So
Right. Yeah, it
yeah.
still costs money, and it chips away at your soul.
Mm,
The older I get, the more and more not just it's a trope or whatever, but like letting go of the institutions that no longer serve us is
mm,
really important as a country, right? As a people,
yeah.
but also as a person on an individual basis. I really think micro is macro in that way, because I realize, like, the older I get, I'm like, oh, this has been an accepted form of what truth is, and it's no longer working. Right. The older I get, I'm like, okay, what are the consequences? Not even like good or bad, but like, let me take inventory, genuine stock of how this is working out.
Mhm.
Is it working out? Maybe there's something I can do separately or differently or whatever, or a different way to think, or, and that's such an important thing to do when you're older. I don't think it's 100% that no kid, just, I don't think that I've been gotten some friendships with a couple of libertarian motherfuckers, actually a lot of them, down here in Austin, Texas. And there's a couple of times where people are like, oh, I just, the whole vibe of like, I just let my kid name themselves. Like, I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know about that. We're like, yeah, cut off your pee-pee, whatever. Like, I don't think that looseness
Yeah.
is helpful.
Yeah.
But and it's a trope again. Oh,
Mhm.
well, suck it up, everybody. But, what if we taught kids how to think instead of what to think? Like, what if we trusted the grand scheme, a higher power, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and the intuition that kids have? What if we focused that toward trusting themselves in a way that we don't now, and obviously we can go on like why that might be, why
Yeah.
certain powers, authorities might not like us to think for ourselves.
Mhm.
But it really is a shame that these kids come out of school not just not thinking for themselves, but actively taught not to, actively taught that this is one way, this is truth. Don't trust yourself. Don't trust your gut. You know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, 100%. I mean, you saw that with the teaching for the test, that you have to think within these certain parameters. And then and I would see it when teaching I like child-based learning where you teach their interest, you follow along with it. But they so like when the kids like really grabbed on, I would teach high school biology to something they really wanted to dive more into. I would kind of accommodate that to a certain extent, but I couldn't because I had to stay on the stupid path. And I think that was very telling because it's like, no, 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 those things you're interested in, don't think like that. Here, I'm going to give you more. And it's interesting because also like a lot of times when kids are different thinkers and they think outside the box, they have to brand them as something else. Oh no, that kid has a learning disability. That kid is ADHD, and that's a big problem for male students
Yes.
because people forget. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, no. I was agreeing with you.
Okay, yeah, because people forget not people forget, people don't like to acknowledge it, the fact that there are differences between men and women, but between children in the way they learn. Boys and girls learn very differently. A
Right.
girl can sit at a desk for 3 hours straight and listen. Boy doesn't need to move around, but, oh my gosh, because he stood up and stretched, he's gotta be medicated. Or
Right.
no, he thinks a little differently, he's thinking more mechanical. Ooh, let's put him in some special classes. So and think about the fact that more teachers are female, so they're kind of
Hmm.
putting their female views on how a male is supposed to learn when they don't learn like that. So you start seeing all these things chipping away at kids and chipping away at free thinking. And again, like everything in education seems purposeful. So is this a way to suppress men, to kind of destroy them through education? Because male academic achievement has decreased a lot since the 80s.
That's probably
Yeah.
because of male privilege. That's probably what caused the males to not be able to learn more, is because they are privileged.
Yes.
Um, fucking shit. I was just fucking contemplating. Sometimes when I'm not the most spiritual, I don't know if anyone else has these times, but sometimes when I'm not the most spiritual, I was like, man, if I had a pussy, you know how famous I would be already? My God, you know what I mean? Like, just I have to struggle through and make memes and get kicked off. I'm not saying girls don't get kicked
Oh,
off
no,
from
I
time to time.
completely acknowledge it. It's completely, easier to be a female YouTube creator than it is a male. And I mean, I'm not saying that I have all these followers or anything, but I can see the differences. Like I could see the fact that I was able to maybe hit a certain number faster than most guys are. And I'm like,
Right.
and I acknowledge this because I'm female, besides the fact that it's fun to talk about weird stuff,
Sure.
just,
Yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, and merit. I'm not saying that getting something easier doesn't mean there's no merit involved. I mean, shit, there's a lot of people who, get fame real quick and then are worthless online or don't create any good music or whatever, and they leave the sphere very quickly.
Mhm.
Um, or because it's not earned, there is. I always go back to this thing. You ever heard of the band? You ever heard of the band Queensryche?
No, I haven't.
Shitty 80s epic, just metal
Uh,
hair band, just dirtbag nonsense. I love it, right? And there's this, one album that was really famous, got him real famous in like 90, 91, right? And it's called Operation Mindcrime. Like, it's corny as fuck, right? Whatever.
mhm.
But I remember going to a show. I bought a friend some tickets. We go to the show, and it was the Operation Mindcrime tour, 2014, right? And like, we're sitting there, we're enjoying the music, blah, blah, blah. But I'm looking around at all the t-shirts, the backs of people's t-shirts, and it's Operation Mindcrime Tour 2012 and Operation Mindcrime Tour 2010, Operation Mindcrime Tour 2008. Like, it's all people, they've been doing this over and over for
Oh yeah.
20, 30 fucking years because they got something cheap. They got something easy, and not even cheap or easy, but they got something. And then the PR team and the selfishness of humanity and the fact that maybe they're not the most creative swooped in, and they
Mhm.
were told, just keep doing this, just keep doing this, just keep pressing the button. Because if they did their own stuff, oh, this is the new tour for a regular album, nobody comes. but everyone wants to be the nostalgic, blah, blah, blah. So they just keep pushing the button, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not saying, to go back all the way down to the tangent where the fuck I came from, I'm not saying that maybe that album, whether or not that was good or bad, that was well, I got this cheap and I don't care about creating more. I don't care about innovating. I don't care about whatever, because I need to feed myself, or I need to, it's a different kind of desperate life, right?
Yeah. It's recycling.
It's recycling.
Hmm.
But when recycling is incentivized, what are we supposed to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can't fault them for it. I mean, because if you could make a living doing something like that, I mean,
I can. I kind of like, I get that, yes, but I can't. I do fault them for it.
Okay.
and maybe that's easy to say because I'm not fucking famous. I haven't had an Operation Mindcrime tour fucking album or whatever. But I was listening to Maj Toure, love him, online, and he made some joke like, my buyout price is 800 million. If you want to pay me 800 million, I'll shut the fuck up. But unless it's that, I'm free, whatever. And obviously he's being hyperbolic, whatever.
Yeah.
That'll never happen. But like, a piece of me is like, I know even the hyperbole, like, I don't ever want to be bought. Like, I don't ever want to be cheapened. I don't ever want to not be myself, because I'll tell you what, on a micro level, macro, I've been not myself at times in my life, and it was fucking miserable. It was miserable. I was unhappy, and my life reflected that.
I mean, because it takes a lot of energy to put up a front, to not be authentic. It's the easiest thing, I feel like, once people get over that hump of nervousness or whatever, eyes on them, to be authentic. It's just because it's just you. And I feel like authenticity, like, sells. I don't want to say sells, but not necessarily monetarily, but people are drawn toward authenticity. So, I mean,
Right.
it's just that people can't get over that hump of they want to be like everyone else. People are afraid to be individualistic and
Right. And it's also the long game, when there's a lot of people, like, I knew from the jump that I wanted to be able to say every single word, talk about every single thing I wanted to. I've talked about some crazy shit. There's only like one or two things I won't share with y'all. I'll keep that for my, spiritual mentors and things like that. I don't think secrets are things that, that we should keep, because they make us nuts. But outside of that, I knew I needed to be an open book, because I don't communicate freely unless I can communicate freely. I don't feel, even when I'm on shows where, everybody cover your ears. Even when I'm on shows where I know I can't say nigger, like, there's something in me that doesn't open up. There's something in me that I don't know. I listen back and I'm, because I make a clip or something, right? And it just like, there's something a little stagnant, and nobody else can necessarily met it, but I notice it.
Yeah.
I notice it when I'm like, I'm not fully myself. I'm not fully like stretching my legs. And therefore, that, same thing you're talking about with these kids, stifles creativity.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny. It's kind of like the idea of the third rail on the train track. When you're a kid, you're taught not to touch it, and then all you want to do is like look at it and lick at it and touch it. Or at least me. Then I was fixated on it in high school. I'm like, I want to touch that. I want to touch that. I'm told not to. Because
Right.
our brain, yeah, exactly. It fixates on what we can't do, and we start having like boundaries and a fence in there. That's all we want to think about. That's all, and it does
Right.
create some sort of stifling. Okay, that's a more extreme version of it, but
Right. And
Yeah.
and it might not probably be a good idea to touch the third rail, but
No.
it's still
Intriguing.
teaching kids, I'm pretty libertarian on a lot of things, where it's just like, okay, is doing crack a good idea? No. Is it a dumb thing to do? Fucks yeah. And will I offer people help? I just celebrated 21 years sober or whatever the other day.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Not my fault, although it's partially my fault. Maybe we could talk about that later. But I'm just saying, like, so it's not smart to smoke crack. I like how we're breaking ground on this show. It's not smart to smoke crack. And offer help to people and blah blah blah. But ultimately, if you're by yourself in your fucking place with your fucking people, you're not on the road, you're not endangering lives. Do you?
Yeah.
Where, like, say it's the third rail conversation, telling people like, you will get electrocuted. It's not, don't, here's what happens when instead of just don't, and we move on, don't,
Yeah.
So as far as the stifling of the spirit, you started to feel that when it came to teaching, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, I and it's funny because I always hated being in school as a kid. So it's weird that I went into teaching too. So I think I just always felt it, and it's just, I mean, if you want to get woo woo about it, I think it's like a spiritual oppression, a spiritual darkness within the schools. I mean, because if you know, since when does the government ever care anything about you? Do you really think they care about educating children? No, there's a purpose. They're educating children the way you want it. So when you have a dark force coming in and trying to mold innocent children, I mean, it's going to be a dark thing. And the thing is, people feel like, oh well, if I get my kids out of public schools, then it's better. No, because majority of schools in the country, they still have to abide by some type of standard, and a lot of the standards are linked into government standards. There's still government oversight going on in it. So where maybe back in the day Catholic school used to be an option, and
Mhm.
it's still better in some options, it's still not the answer. Yeah, which kind of not to go off the homes into the homeschool route, but which has given me a love for homeschooling and unschooling.
Right. Unschooling. Can you break that
Yeah.
apart a little bit?
So, like, homeschooling tends to be more structured, and parents go out and buy curriculums and have, like, more of a structured grades that they teach their kids. But there's also the idea of unschooling. And I know unschooling was always kind of demonized as the parents that just let their kids run around and do whatever they want, and don't actually teach their kids. But to me, unschooling is like what we talked about before, child guided learning. So
Mm.
if they are like super into science and you can like base everything around science, or you want to take them out to the wood lot to go dig around, that type of thing. So to me, the way I look at unschooling is that it's less structured, less formalized, but because you're kind of working in that area of what a kid is intrigued by, they're going to get more out of it. I mean, because think about like when we were in high school, how much wasted time there was. Like we
Mm.
could have finished high school in 2 years. Like
Mhm.
I was just going through some old notebooks and tossing them, and I'm like, we could have. This is such a wasted time. You're reviewing the same stuff at the beginning of every year. Do you remember that? Like you go into math class and you spend the first month reviewing, and it was just there was so much waste. And kids like don't get to develop some really cool skills because they're stuck in a classroom all day. Like have you ever met a homeschool kid who is just like a genius at art or
Mhm.
in a sport? And that's because they
Mhm.
finished their work in like an hour and a half and they had the rest of the day to explore whatever they wanted to.
And I'll bring it a step further.
Mhm.
I've been talking to about, sometimes I mention this friend of mine, who, a few years ago, I remember he's an accountant. And, I would just be, it's such, I'm a singer songwriter, I'm a
Mhm.
producer, I love music, I love podcasting, I love doing this creative stuff. And I'm looking at, him saying he loves accounting, and it makes my brain hurt just thinking of it, right? I'm just like, I look at it, what do you love? Now you're not even accounting your own money, bro. Like, what the fuck says you talk? Like, he's just like, oh yeah, I get like lost in the numbers, and I'm just like disgusting. So here's why I bring that up
Uh,
is if we trusted that God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, had
mhm.
enough interested mathematicians, if we trusted that God, the universe, put enough interested scientists, interested whatever, and we just let it all figure out, I
Yeah.
think we would be better suited than, okay, you're going to learn long division, even though you're never, ever, ever going to use
Yeah.
that fucking ever. I'm not saying everybody should be a content creator. Lord knows, whatever. Nobody can
Mhm.
be as cool as you and I. But what bothers me is when I learned all kinds of stuff that I never use, and I wish so hard that I had learned other stuff. The
Yeah.
last few years, especially, fuck, getting into politics or whatever. But like, I've just been dunking my head in history, and I love it. I can't stop. I can't stop. I love it. And not only does it, help my own, help my show because I get to say, well, Napoleon said blah blah blah. But it also is helpful because it's something I'm genuinely interested in,
Yeah.
and it what's the word? Um, clarifies my perspective on modern times, on past times, on what we might want in the future, what I want in the future, things
Mhm.
like that. So if we trusted, instead of forcing people to learn accounting who didn't fucking want it,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
if, what could life be like? You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, it's so true. Like, it was funny because when I was teaching, even though I was teaching bio, the kids come and ask you for help with other types of homework and math and everything. And probably the farthest I went in math was pre-calc. And I tell them, I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, I study this, but I don't remember anything of it. And it's like, they tell you that you're learning this stuff that you're never going to use because it helps expand your mind. And you kind of buy it at the time, but then you're like, what did it help with? What did it expand? It didn't help me in any other area. And look at that, all that wasted time on it. And I can't even help a kid answer a math problem, high school, even a ninth grade math problem, a more basic one. I don't know how to do anymore. Yeah. So exactly. Like, what was the purpose? We could have filled it up with something that we like better. Like I chose not to study physics in high school. I opted to study forensics that year instead. But look at it like now. Now I'm interested. I'm curious with CERN. So I've started to teach myself some particle physics. But maybe if I didn't take that math class, I could have taken a basic physics class instead. I could have replaced that. And yes, I
Sure.
know physics has math. I'm sorry. I don't have enough caffeine yet, so I'm slurring everything. But but I didn't need it for basic physics because apparently I would have liked it. So it's interesting kind of looking back and seeing it, how you're forced into certain paths and they want to talk about choice. Give kids under 18 choice. Let kids make their own decisions for their own lives and bodies. I'm like, you won't even let a kid decide what math class they want to take. Like choice when it's convenient.
Right. Choice when yeah. I do vacillate between thinking that it's malevolence or just ineptitude, and I think they work hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different intentions when it comes to it. But when you take a real big step back, it's hard
Yeah.
not to think there isn't a dark fucking energy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I would bring it a step further and say, and thank you to the Joseph Santos. He said, I hated school too, and that's exactly why I wanted to be an educator. Educators are usually horrible, but I live in California. I can't afford degrees. Exactly. But as far as like the darkness, I also think you could label it, Satan, right?
Yeah.
But you could also label it fear. You could also label it desperation, coming from a place of what's the word? Coming from a place of lack, what's the word? Like instead of abundance, the opposite of abundance, whatever that
Oh,
is.
yeah. Is lack, I guess,
I
right?
guess, yeah, there's
Mhm.
another word, a longer word, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Coming
Yeah.
from a place of small-minded thinking, it makes me greedy. Even when it comes
Mhm.
to the show, I'm like, why aren't people, sharing my things? And I'm shadow banned and da, da, da. And I want to say that's not motherfucking true. You're all racist and horrible people unless you help me die. But
You
when
say.
when I'm looking at when I'm comparing, right? It's me coming from a place of lack. And
Yeah.
that makes me do all kinds of stuff that I wouldn't normally do. Sometimes I'll even like post something and then like, hang on a second, I'm not in the right mind to do that. And I just remove it.
Mhm.
It's not because I don't necessarily even believe what I'm posting, but I do have to look at my my vibe, my intentions, my,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
darkness, lightness, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The state you're coming out of. Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting because you're like, well, is it Satan? Is it fear? Is it this and it's that? I think that's all tied up into the same thing. Because
Mhm.
if you are a person of faith, I am, how does Satan operate? He operates with fear, with disillusionment, with all those negative things. And even when you were talking about, is it malevolence or is it ineptitude? There's different levels of things. So you start to see in so many organizations that up at the top, it's malevolent, but how else do they rule besides like pulling in inept, stupid people
Yeah.
to be their peons? Like if you believe that there is a class of elites, ruling silently, somewhere in the world, who else is going to do their bidding? They're not going to do their bidding. They
Mhm.
need idiots to do their puppets, and some of these puppets are malevolent, but some are just outright not. What's the nice word? Idiotic? I don't know.
Dum-dums.
Yeah, there you go.
Um, but also, I'll bring it another step. There's also the idea of, they're inept or okay. Ladies, I love you so much. I love you very much. But from my experience, and it washes out that women have certain strengths,
Mhm.
And one of their incredible strengths is that they're more emotionally attuned, right?
Mhm.
So they are more willing, from what I tweeted a few months ago. It's not that women aren't funny, as an example. It's that women are more willing to kill comedy on behalf of potential feelings being hurt, right? So they're
Yes.
willing to siphon themselves, censor themselves, because, well, someone might be hurt by this thing, so I'll defer to someone's emotion. That's just what I've noticed, right? I
Yes.
could be wrong, but
100%.
I'm just using that as an example. And
Mhm.
what I mean by that is women who are coming into schooling, just like you're talking about,
Yeah.
have incredible intentions. God bless them. They want to help kids, right? And then they come in and they're overwhelmed as fuck, and they have managers and administrators and people who are out of touch and also overwhelmed, and so they're working like and they're told over and over, this is what's best for kids. Teach them shit that they don't want to hear. Teach them this cookie cutter everything. Force them into this 8-hour day. Do that, do, and they're like, well, I guess this is the right way to do it, right? And so, thinking critically, I'm not saying that women don't think critically. Of course they fucking do, but I'm saying who would be a better useful person, right? Not
Mhm.
even idiot, but who would be better? It
Oh,
certainly wouldn't be some construction motherfucker,
yeah.
right? It certainly
Mhm.
probably wouldn't be. It would be someone who has good intentions, who's malleable and more accepting, right? And intentionally accepting, right?
Mhm.
And who you could kind of fidget into that position. Does that make sense? What
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
trying to put forth?
100%. And, I still yeah, but I still hold these people responsible because it's like, you still have a brain, you still yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm not taking away their responsibility at
I mean,
all.
that's like where white savior syndrome comes from, you know? Yeah, the good intentions, but you know what? You still have a brain to not, be an idiot. Um,
Right.
so,
Right.
bring in that critical thinking because I'm still going to hold you responsible for being ruled
Absolutely.
by your emotions. So, I guess I'm not a very patient or tolerant person in that sense. And yeah, and
No,
I love how you speak about white savior syndrome because that's driven me crazy for years as a white woman.
yeah, because it's ultimately it's wildly racist.
Yeah.
And how are the consequences going? Right?
Mhm.
Everybody's all like, probably listening to Ashley talk about unschooling, and they're like, I don't know. Okay, well, how's the other option? I'm not saying it's binary, but I'm saying how's what we're doing so far working out? You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and just to bring it back to schooling, white savior syndrome in schooling, yeah, it's having the complete opposite effect. It's
yep.
racist because you're saying, oh, all these students aren't capable. They don't have access to these resources. I don't know where I live. It's the New York City suburbs. They're diverse, and we don't have these inequalities. So why are we, behaving like we do? Everybody has access to the same things around here.
Right.
So I find it, yeah, I find that whole mindset and it's like assumptions. You're automatically making a racist assumption about something, like, Peter, you look Hispanic. You probably can't afford the internet. And
Right.
do you know what the DMV is?
Right.
Yeah.
I had a teacher on a few years ago,
Mhm.
and she talked about being in a public school, seventh, eighth grade, and the school was in San Francisco. Surprise, surprise. And they had this problem. There were too many black girls going into detention,
Mhm.
right? And white, mostly predominantly white school at San Francisco. There's no black people in San Francisco, but and so they decided, okay, how do we fix this problem of too many black girls going into detention? We just won't give them detention, right? We won't give them consequences,
Okay.
right? And so therefore what happens? A black girl, as an example, is playing on her phone in the back of the class, and you can't tell her. You can say, hey, give me your phone. You can't take her phone. It's her private property,
Mhm.
right? And now she's not learning, which
Yeah.
is obviously great for black people. And then the kids around her who she's distracting are not learning either,
Mhm.
right? And the teacher has no authority, has no, ability to give these kids structure, right? And they're all looking at, okay, well, she's the cool girl, and I guess I'm supposed to be like, anti. All right, well, I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
it is horrible. White guilt
Oh
hurts
gosh.
black
Yeah.
students.
And here's the thing, were those black students and their families actually going, "Oh my gosh, is this racist?" Or was it the white people who decided to jump in and go, "Oh my gosh, this is racist." There probably weren't even complaints from these,
Right.
families or from these kids, and it was, the white people who decided to swoop in. That's why I love Zed Rudo, who
Yeah.
has those stickers.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
best. Yeah.
He's a great dude. I love that.
Yeah.
Everybody go find Zed El Rudo on Instagram or on Twitter. Um, and actually, he's the one who put together that my white Rage Against Boring White Liberals T-shirt. That little in the same vein of Rage Against the Machine.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
yeah.
Except Rage Against the Machine is a little
Who? What?
isn't Rage the one that's a little woke now? And
Oh no, they're the Machine.
yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah, they
yeah.
are the
You,
Machine.
yeah, that motherfucker. Listen, Zach De La Rocha. I know this won't get to you because you only listen to Che Guevara tapes. But you could be all rah anti-authority all you want. You performed at places that required vaccines,
Yeah.
and your tickets are ridiculous. You're the opposite of what you preach,
Mhm.
and you're a piece of shit. So God
Yeah.
bless you. God fucking bless you.
I'm like done with concerts for a long time. I used
Oh
to
yeah,
go a lot, and I'm like, I can't tolerate these people anymore.
right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sidestepping the
Yeah.
matrix. Let's talk about doing things outside of it. You were talking about one of the things was unschooling, right?
Yeah.
Maybe as a form of transition. What about trade school? What's your experience with trade school and your interest in it?
Oh yeah. So it's funny because I went the traditional way. I went got my bachelor's, got my master's. If I was still teaching, I would have had my PhD. And I did it that way. But I've always been like a big proponent of trade school. Like when I taught, I would tell kids like, no, you have these other options, and they'd be shocked. They're like, nobody else tells us this. So I've always been a big proponent of it. And then on top of that, I'm a person who I love learning. I want to be able to be self-sufficient. I work way better doing labor than sitting at a desk. So for me, I just signed up for trade school for the first time. So I put my money where my mouth is, the things that I've been telling the students. Funny thing is, side note, in my county that I grew up in, Westchester County, they have a trade school program where during high school, you can go to high school for half the day and you can go to trade school the other half of the day, and it'll be paid for, just like free public school. But when you try to inquire about it, no. You're a college track person, even though you can still graduate with the trade school diploma and the high school diploma and go to college. They completely discourage you around here. So I could have gone for free when I was in high school. I was discouraged from it. So now I am, as an adult, having to pay for it. But so I'm currently doing that for carpentry because, we're getting into a time that is like, economic upheaval, societal upheaval. And I believe that self-sufficiency is such an important thing. And so many of us are used to just being able to call somebody in and
Right.
to do something. And
Yeah.
okay, maybe I'm a little more guilty of being less capable. My mother and her family are immigrants, so they know how to do what has to be done. But I'm like,
Right.
all right, I should learn this too. So for me, it's a way of trying to bring back practical skills, like sidestepping the matrix, getting out of this, maybe being able to barter some work with people. And also, yeah, so like I said, practical skills. Let's rebel against the whole thing that everybody needs to go to college. I'm probably going to get more use out of this than I will my degrees.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so sorry, that was a little all over the
No, no,
place.
no, 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 no.
The gist of
Right. Slang says, "My nigga, what up?"
it.
I'm sure he's talking to you. So hi, I'm your nigga. Hi. But I also think there's an element to it
Mhm.
of why that might be, and especially in places like New York, San Francisco, whatever, the elites, the coastal towns that
Yeah,
usually have a little bit of a wimpy motherfucking vibe. I know New York used to be New York. It's not New York anymore. Hasn't been for a long time. It's San
depends.
Francisco 2.0, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's normal for those types of people to see trade as, oh, you're just like you're one of the proletariat. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
just an idiot. That's
Mhm.
what dum-dums do who have a criminal record. Like you don't
Yeah,
want to,
yeah,
you want to go into and sit in because I want this, you
yeah,
must want this.
yeah.
Right. It's condescension.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that means that, you failed out of all your classes. You're not a
Mm,
smart person, so you have to go there. And let me tell you, I'm just a few classes into this, and I love the people in my class. They're way cooler people than
Yeah.
anybody I ever went to school with.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, so it's
And
pretty
there are many options out there. I mean, I just finished, I graduated from audio production school a couple
oh,
months ago, right?
congratulations.
My first time in college, never thought I would go to college. And I'll bring it a step motherfucking further because I'm sure this might fold in with other people. I thought for years, I just told myself that I wasn't, college material. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? Or I wasn't, oh, that's for other people. Same thing with you with the trade school. It's like, oh,
mhm.
that's for other people. When you start to de yeah, we got to come up with a better brand, but I'm just going to say it again. When you
Yeah,
start to deplug from the matrix, there's something that happens where you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm right. Not all
yeah,
these other people, not all
yeah.
these other institutions. I'm right. And you start thinking, I wonder in what other areas of life I'm right. And you start kind of dipping your toe over here and you start pushing, oh, there is floor there. I thought that was just nothing but a pile of leaves over a giant hole. All right, I'm going to walk forward. I'm going to walk forward. And
Mhm.
you can expand and explore
Yeah.
different parts of yourself,
Oh, yeah,
you know.
for sure.
Okay, so unschooling,
Yeah.
trade school. I've been also, we were talking about a little bit, but I've been getting deep into that shit. I've been, besides learning about history and also I'm gonna share a little bit about it. Let me find this homie. This homie on YouTube is the shit. So after you go subscribe to Ashley is Ash, you also need to go find who's this motherfucker, Bruce Gore, Bruce Gore, and he's got my brother sent me a bunch of, because I'm gonna I'm I think I'm gonna be Christian. Oh
Oh,
no.
congratulate what is he saying? One of us, one of us.
Right. Join us, Peter. Um, I grew up Christian,
Mhm.
whatever, I'm fucking Puerto Rican, so we're all Catholic, and then on the other side, kind of born again, blah, blah, blah. Grew up most of my life, and, okay, I was that, and then got deep into drugs and alcohol, and, became an atheist, and then got sober, and then I was, ultra Christian for like a year, and then, yes, Sage, she says, Jesus loves you. Thank you, Sage. Love you, Sage. But like I like was, and so since I've been sober, I love God, doing all kinds of
Mhm.
spiritual stuff. I got fucking sage and not that sage, a different sage. I got, rose quartz and I'm meditating every day, a prayer. Yeah. But it's kind of been, yeah, God is like a,
Yeah.
whatever God is, right?
Mhm.
But I'm doing audio at this church the last like 6 months, and I'm sitting there a couple of times, and some of these songs are like making me almost cry, and I'm like, why am I almost? God damn it, I'm at work right now. This is bullshit, right? So why am I saying that? I guess I'm saying that to
Oh, I
say
love
like,
this. No, keep going, man.
so I'm saying that to say like, okay, all right, God, if I was open enough to meditate, if I was open
Yeah.
enough to, say nigger, if I was open enough to have rose quartz, if I was open enough to do these other things and think outside the box, what if, what I'm already looking into the structures of, you know, all these other things, and I texted had a call with my homie, with my brother, and he sent me these, some of these things from Bruce Gore, who's talking about like, okay, what was actually going on in Rome, in
Mhm.
Jerusalem during the time, the first 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years after Jesus died. Here's what it looked like. Here's why this might be. Here's why Corinthians was written. Here's why,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And it's starting to kind of build the bridge between the intellectual, discouragement that I've kind of built up in my mind around those structures and traditions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're looking at that's why I'm thinking like, oh yeah, maybe Christianity, whatever. But I'm also, I'm gonna go help a chick with her chicken coop in a week and a half. Like I'm gonna go, I'm learning, about, and I'm interested in this other thing I want to kind of talk to you about too. But did you also, I mean, like you said, you were born, raised Christian. Did you ever have a point where you were like, step aside, blah, blah, blah. I'm throwing my hair back, fuck traditions, fuck institutions, the dark night of the soul.
No, actually, I've been pretty fortunate, in that, I was born and raised in that. And I guess because it always made sense, and especially as you get older, it clicks more and it makes sense when you look at the world through that lens. So yeah, and some people go through that, but for me, it's just always been, my faith has always been constant. You just for me. I just, you just grow into it more as you grow up and get older, and more things click and more things make sense. And, and it does give you a hope and a peace that even in the darkest times, you're like, wow, I feel at peace because I know who's sitting on the throne. I know that God's still on the throne. It's going to be okay. This is just earth. There's
Mhm.
way better things at play. And no, so I've been pretty fortunate in that regard. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, like I said, I know a lot of people who do go through that and they have to step away. Some people were, for whatever reason, they just, I don't know, they have that dark night, but then they have, something that pulls them back in, something clicks. Sometimes, you just do it out of tradition or do it because your family does it, but then all of a sudden everything makes, like for you, kind of clicks into place and makes sense, and then the world makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, so that's my journey. Except I'm Protestant, so a little different for this region because we do have I think it does lean a little more heavily Catholic.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, definitely heavily
yeah.
Catholic. Um, okay, so besides that, you good to go some more time?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
15. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, I also want to talk about because it's such a fucking. Even broaching the subject bothers me.
Uh,
Okay,
yeah.
but I have a feeling that we need
Hmm.
to. And I've been talking to, I went to the Greater Reset a couple weeks ago with John Bush and all them cats, and learning about, it was a conference all about alternative financial
Mm-hmm.
institutions and homeschooling and what kind of seeds to buy and all kinds of crazy, fuck the
Oh,
government
they
shit.
hit me from all
Love it. Oh,
directions.
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, like I wasn't wife shopping, but I was on the way. I was like, oh
You know
yeah,
what?
okay,
What better place? That
there
and
isn't.
church.
Yeah, right. But anyway, so but even broaching the subject of alternative financial,
Yeah.
currencies and things
Mhm.
is a little, it has its tropes and it has its, bros,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, I mean, there's like who I'm friends with on Instagram who are big into it, and I'm like, all right, fine, I'll get into it, fine. So
Yeah.
can you please talk
Mhm.
about your journey talk? Can you please talk about your journey when it comes to alternative currencies?
Okay. So, I think my awareness happened back when Bitcoin was like, I don't know, 180 bucks. And I'm like, okay, this is intriguing. But at the time I couldn't afford 180 bucks. I didn't know
Mhm.
you could buy pieces of it. So I kind of threw it, to the back of my mind for a while. And then during the pandemic, like you started hearing more and more talking about it. So I'm like, let me just, let me just try it. Throw a little bit in. It's like playing the lottery or whatever. And I saw my money growing. I started in Bitcoin. So I'm like, okay, there is something to this. I started investigating more things, trying out different investments, and it was always going well. I didn't get wrecked like a lot of people do. And it was interesting because like I was getting into it as an investment. But I started realizing the potential for to kind of like exist outside of like the mainstream, outside of the Fed, that it kind of gives us this money because it's like it's not American currency, it's not Italian currency, it's not Mexican currency. It's its own thing and it's real. It's based in like this type of code. I don't know enough about how computers work, but
Mhm.
it makes it like a legit thing because people think it's like fake money. Well, I'm like, well, so is the dollar. The dollar is fake.
And how right, and how is that working out?
Right? Yeah. So I'm like, it's just what kind of fake you want, but
Right.
at least this has a little bit something more to it. And clearly it's a threat because they want to regulate it. Some people are like, no, they just want to tax it and make money. No, no, no. The purpose of this is like privacy. It's like the modern version of this of having a Swiss bank account.
Mhm.
And yes, there are certain things in the blockchain that do make it trackable, but you do things in the right way and things are private. So you're like, clearly they're threatened by it, which means that it has potential. And one of the biggest potentials of it is it's like they say that crypto is like the biggest transfer of wealth from the elites to the regular people in history. It's given regular people a way to make amazing money, as you've seen on Instagram. There's people who really have made bank, and I know people who've made bank doing that. Um, I've done well, but I wasn't in early enough yet to make that bank. But I've made some investments that I'm confident in and that I really feel like are a hedge uh of hedge against inflation, a hedge against collapse with everything that's going on. But as you start seeing them creep into it, because oh gosh, there's so many different directions I can go with this. So, like we said, it's a
Go on.
threat. They're asking about it on your taxes. They want you to do things through Coinbase because that's trackable and things like that. So they don't want us having money because money is power. Money allows you to kind of escape the quote unquote matrix. So that's one aspect about crypto that I really love. And being able to transact directly. If I want to send something to a relative in another country and I don't want a middleman, it's like it's there like this. So that's been a pretty eye-opening thing. The fact that it's now like people to people, it's bringing the market to people and not having all these middlemen. But the other aspect of it is like if you start looking into the WEF in the Great Reset, they are already very entrenched with certain aspects of the blockchain. Like you look at MetaMask and who it is owned by. You look at Infura. You look at the Ethereum Foundation is partnered with the WEF. So you start seeing that they got their hands in everything too. So you're like, all right, some people are like, well, it's a way of bringing about control. They're making us think we're independent, but actually they have their hands in it at the same time. So this kind of, this is catch 22 going on. So the big thing right now is how can we find crypto that is out of WEF control? So I am currently involved in that. So if anybody's on my YouTube or Twitter and you're seeing me talk about hex, I'm not talking about hexing anyone. I'm talking about a type of crypto like a hexagon. So we're all kind of working, through that and investing in that to try to bring about crypto that exists outside of that control so we can now really truly break out of the matrix. So I'm sorry. So that was a little all over the place. I'm not the best when it comes to crypto education. It's like I know what I think and feel. I just can't always,
Yeah. Ashley Ash now. So you go and you talk about all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah, I talk a lot, about weirdness. And again, I throw around the word hex a lot because a lot of people in the hex community like the same stuff. So we're all kind of just hanging out in there. So and it's been a fun adventure because I think the fun thing about talking about weirdness is you don't have to believe in it all. You just have to be willing to explore. So I say it's like you're trying it on for size. I don't believe in flat earth, but I was willing to discuss it and try it on for size and throw the ideas around with people. Yeah, some people get hostile about it, but a lot of people, we have a mutual respect and they're like, they followed me anyway because they're like, all right, I'm a flat earther, but cool. We can have this dialogue.
Right. Yeah. I have a friend who's a flat earther over in Queens. He's been on my show, blanking on his name. He's a sweetheart though. And like we agree talking shit about race, because he's a black kid, he's like, oh, actually, I don't know. Black don't crack. So he might be 57. But we talk shit about, fake racism and all this stuff. And then when he's talking about, he'll post just like, oh, by the way, everybody, the earth is flat. And I'm just like, I roll my eye, but it's okay. It doesn't preclude me from having a relationship with him. And I think the fulcrum, I believe, everybody, is emotional immaturity. I'm not saying I'm better than everybody or that Ashley and I are better than everybody, but we're better than everybody.
We're willing to discuss it though. We're not trying to shut down other people. We're like, cool. Because I don't care what shape the earth is. Because people are like, oh, you're so close-minded. You can't see it. I'm like, listen, it's not going to change anything. If you give me the right evidence, cool. And then I'll just go about my day and have 4 more espressos, I don't know. It doesn't, I'm convinced that it's kind of, and okay, does it start getting kooky to say psyop? But I like the word psyop. It's kind of like a psyop, or I'll just throw it around casually. Maybe I'm using it wrong, but I feel like it's like a psyop to get us arguing and distracted because so that they want us fighting with each other. So they want us fighting over the shape of the earth, So, and any of you flat earthers that are watching, I still love you. And I hope you still love me too. We agree to disagree.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ada says we are allowed a different opinion. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the crypto thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I have seen some of that as well. And, I also think I just want to throw in there too, I'm big on this show on like white pilling, like regardless of yes, obviously, My friend just texted me that he's watching, but he does this in a weird way. He sent me a message saying "Private Eyes, they're watching you," like that song. I'm just like, "Hey,
Yeah,
fucking."
Hall and Oates. Yeah.
So you know who Hall and Oates is?
Oh,
So
I've
you
seen
are.
them
So
live.
you're
Yeah.
24. You're 25. Okay. Um, Actually, my first real
Yeah.
concert was Earth, Wind, and Fire with
Oh.
Chicago.
Oh, wow. That's quite,
It
yeah,
was
quite a
hardcore.
historic combo.
Yeah, exactly. No moshing, unfortunately. But um, so okay, so I'm big white pill on this shit, meaning
Mm.
I don't, you were talking about like, oh, is crypto just another way of them controlling? I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, but do they already have their hand in the fucking Fed? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, do they
Yeah.
already have so anything that helps, yeah, I think is a good idea. And at
Yeah.
a certain point, we can, if a lot of black pill motherfuckers who like, I'll post about this or that and, try to give some hope, some
Yeah.
positivity. And they're still like, oh, but it doesn't matter because, yeah, but they also have the thing. And it points me again to this thing. Just because we're on the same page doesn't mean that I need to fucking spend time with you. You're a negative
Mm.
person. You
Yeah.
need to please, whether it be turning to God or turning to higher power or spirituality or fucking meditate and prayer, call you a motherfucking mother, do work on your relationships, like take care of yourself, bitch. Go for a walk. I know it's trying whatever, but to touch grass, but like it really, I see it in my own experience when
Yeah.
I'm detached from the real experience of life. I can get
Mhm.
black pilled real fast.
Oh,
Real
yeah.
fast.
I mean, and maybe that was their intention of locking us down so that we became hopeless and black
Mhm.
pilled. But like I think there's also a good side to black pilling. Like, and also
Mhm.
what you say about crypto, yeah, does it have both sides? Yeah, I feel like, on earth majority of things have a duality. So it's about finding the good part and using that and kind of and balancing that, that way. So like yeah, the WEF might have their hands in crypto, but can we use it to fight against them? Yeah. So let's use it in the good way. And oh, I lost my train of thought. What was the
You were
other
s- you
thing?
you were saying there's something
Black
good
pill.
about black pill. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Because I okay, I think of myself as a black pilled person. People are like, oh no, but there's hope, there's this, that. I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I'm cool with it. It doesn't mean I'm like, yeah, the world's on fire. It's all good. Yeah, cool.
Right.
We'll try to do some things to fight against it, but whatever happens, happens. Maybe it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm equating black pilled with being laid back, but like I don't think it's all negative. I guess it depends on your personality.
Well, it depends on your
Yeah.
personality and it depends on what the next step is.
Yeah.
So there are some people who are like you're saying, black pill, like, we're all fucked and blah, blah, blah. And your next step is, but Jesus got it. God's
Yeah.
got it.
It's all
Everything's
good.
cool.
And we try our best.
And we try our best. And I'm going to go down swinging. And I
Mhm.
know I can sleep at night
Yeah.
when I'm before my creator. We'll both point and laugh at the motherfuckers who, tried to, lizard us. Right. But some people go black pill and their next step is, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do drugs all day or it just doesn't even matter. I remember there's this group called MGTOW. I don't know if they're still around, but it's men going their own way. It was kind of like I'm not saying all the Sigma people, are the same way. And God bless you if you're Sigma, whatever. But I do have to say this because men going their own way, MGTOW was dudes who are frustrated with women, which
Mhm.
I understand and things like that, but it was okay. You know what, I'm just gonna do whatever I want, make a lot of money, play games all day, and fuck hookers, right? that
Mhm.
was their that was their thing,
Okay.
which we also, before we stop, we got to talk about that last thing too. But there's that, of just guys who are just like not only giving up, but
Mhm.
there's an element of that's some baby shit. That's not
Oh,
man shit to be like, oh, I'm just gonna, I don't care about it's tantrum shit,
yeah.
right?
Oh, exactly. Right as you're saying that, I'm like, this reminds me of like a teenager having a fit over something and then, refusing to clean their room or something.
Right.
Uh, yeah, no, 100%. And there is that problem in the Christian community too, where it's like, well, Jesus is coming. We're in the end time, so we're just going to kind of sit down and cruise control. Okay, not do bad things, but like we don't have to worry. We don't have to prepare. It's all going to be good. Which I've heard that's more modern theology. So that's a problem in modern theology, and people look at it as a tool of Satan to keep people, I guess, complacent. Is that the word? But people
Mhm.
just don't do, yeah, that they're not, going out to the world and being good Christians and helping others and having hope and trying to prepare and be, so it's a way to keep Christians suppressed. So it's interesting that that has even influenced the church in certain ways, but it presents itself as like end times theology.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what the Sigma crowd is all about, right?
Vaguely, I know that the different levels, beta, sigma, yeah,
Yeah, it's like the side. I
you give
looked it
up.
up just to get the exact definition. It was something to the effect of, instead of like in a lion pride, beta male, alpha male, but the sigma is like separate, not even he's on his own, doing his own thing, blah, 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 just, shit posting and whatever.
Okay.
And God bless him. I love you, Sigma boys. I appreciate anything culturally that takes down, feminism. I'm happy with it, boys. That's fine. Anything that culturally pokes fun at, pokes fun at, everything. I'm happy with it and I appreciate it. But I
Better than
just need
being
to
a beta.
post, huh?
Sorry to interrupt. I guess better than being a beta.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna push it back on them. If you're Sigma and you're listening to this and you're not asking girls out, you're not an actual Sigma, right? Meaning, there's all this like movement in there, like trad wife. Yeah, I want a trad wife. Bitch, if you're not asking girls out, there ain't no fucking trad wife gonna show up on your door because you posted memes, motherfucker. Like, you do have to take care of yourself. You can't just, like, you do have to work out. You do have to, learn how to be self-sufficient and sovereign. You do have to work on yourself and your relationship with God, like I said earlier, and your relationships with your families and things like that. But again, it's I think sometimes, I think maybe even more than not, the Sigma vibe is a way to remain better
Mm.
without really knowing it yourself.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. So it's kind of it's like you're wearing this veil, this cloak, this costume of being a sigma, but you're actually a beta. But and it's interesting because you're like, do something for yourself. Get up and do something and take care of yourself. Yeah, because if these guys want to complain about not finding women, women don't want to marry a child that they have to take care of. They don't want to have to baby you. Like, step up and be a man. People, I guess feminism likes to act like that, we don't want to be led, but no, we want men that are, women want men that are leaders, that can, I mean, I'm not, and again, I'm not talking for anybody that's watching in a controlled way, and that, oh, be like the Duggars and wear your skirts and, don't leave the kitchen. No, but you know what? There is, men are, I feel like, meant to be natural leaders, lead the family, show that you can do that. Because you know what? As a woman, it gets old having to work and having to do things for yourself. There's nothing wrong with the taking care of each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Pink Atlas shrugged. You know her on Instagram? Maybe
No.
you don't. Okay, yeah, she's the one who's always like big on crypto and whatever, and also is like, check out these seed beds I made, and I'm like, I don't even know how that works, but I'm interested. But she posted some poll a month ago,
Mhm.
and it was essentially like, okay, women, be honest, just with me. If you had your, like, if everything was already covered, if the man got you money, got you protection, got you, you're safe, you're got, it's cool, right?
Mhm.
Would you be cool with staying at home, like, and taking care of a family, and like, without anyone watching you, without anyone watching these girls filling out this poll, they all said, yeah, I would like that,
Oh yeah,
right?
that's surprising. Yeah.
No, but with the view, and I'll bring it a step further, with fear, girls are like, no, because no, I need to be Miss Independent. Usually that comes from similar. We just did a psychiatric evaluation of the beta boys who are like, I'm not gonna play. I'm taking my kickball and go home. Girls do that too. Girls do that too. Where it's like, I was in a bad relationship with a man, or I've been hurt, or I've been molested, or I've been whatever. So I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna be Miss Independent, blah blah blah. Even though there's a huge part of my gut that wants a real man. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be, 30, 39 and still single. Can't find a good man because I have all these weird like desires, and then, and real ass men, like, oh, they want somebody who's got a few more years, to make some fucking babies, and, their head fights with their gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my thing is, I'm a champion for the gut. I'm a champion for the
Oh,
truth. I'm a champion for the authenticity,
Oh,
you know?
100%. Like, one of the things that I love is acting, and acting is about following those impulses. Once you get into your head, it's a disaster. You ruin everything. The take is gone. And no, I mean, I'm telling you, like, I hate working. And okay, everybody hates working, but I feel like it hits different as a woman. Like
Yeah.
it's miserable to be dragging around to these things. Like men, I just feel like are more um I don't know. Men want to provide, men like work, men find purpose in work. As a woman, it's just freaking miserable. I hate dragging around and getting up and doing. And I'm not saying that I want to be lazy, but
No.
I'm happier in other situations.
Right.
Like I
I
like
mean,
volunteering at a farm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, yeah, absolutely. Volunteering at a farm or whatever,
Farm,
or
like that's like, yeah, different type of work.
right, or that desire that God put in you, as an
Yeah.
example. Just I'm not saying it is, it isn't, whatever. You're you, but the desire that God put in you to teach.
Hmm.
What if that was channeled in a way to help fucking homeschool kids? Like,
Yeah.
what if God put that in there so that you could be like, oh, now that I don't have to worry about the institutions and the trans and the bullshit and the government stuff, oh, I love teaching now again because it's my fucking kids
Yeah.
and I'm showing them how to be their own people and showing that, you know what I mean? What if that was utilized in that way?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Right.
I
That's not
mean,
laziness. That's work,
yeah.
you know?
It's a different kind of work, yeah, but I know that, like, our society likes to perceive that as laziness,
Right.
which is unfortunate because 'cause I'm like, "No, I just don't wanna do this thing," and these other things that I do like aren't really gonna provide me money, but I enjoy that so much more. So yeah, I guess it's just but that's the mindset of, consumerism and making a society that pays and buys into all this stuff. Like, if you
Right.
have both parents working, then you're gonna have more spending going on. You're gonna
Mhm.
have, yeah, it just I guess it's that whole Rockefeller economy that they wanted, the way they wanted to kind of box us into that. And it's unfortunate that it's so it's so it's countercultural now to think that. I don't know. It's this weird thing. Like, oh my gosh, like you're not a feminist. That means you want to wear the little red hood and what is
Right.
that? The Handmaid's Tale?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
there's
yeah.
like this association, but it's like, no, 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 no. It's
Right.
yeah, people just can't wrap their head around it.
And I'll also, because I know we got to stop soon, but I also want to just say, w- if the left, modern, whatever,
Mhm,
want to be so rah individuality and trusting themselves to the point of, sure, 16-year-old, cut off your tits.
mhm.
Why can't they afford adult women that same self-knowledge?
Yeah, yeah.
You
Oh
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Why can't if Ashley didn't want to do that or somebody, why is it still like, oh, you must be the, oh, meh, meh, meh," and all this condescending bullshit. And yet if she was, fucking 10 years earlier and wanted to fucking cut off her tits, it's like, well, we default to you. But if a guy wants to go to trade school and learn a fucking trade, oh, it's because he's stupid. It's
yeah.
again, it's built on, whether it be a dark matter, a dark energy, fucking Satan fear, whatever it is, it's built on condescension because it feels good. I want you to
Yeah.
say this to yourself, leftists, if you're listening to me. I know you're not because I'm Puerto Rican and you're racist, but
Mhm.
I want you to just examine whether it actually is you're better than people, or you just like to feel superior because it makes you, it plugs up the holes in your own fucking
Mm.
insecurity.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. Always the most insecure people are the ones who are most controlling and yeah, and demeaning. And it's interesting because when you talk about that type of choice, I mean, we this has been a huge debate the past few years. Like, oh, choice is okay for this, choice is okay for that. But when you want to make your own medical decisions about what you put in your body, oh no,
Right.
you're not allowed that choice. You don't know your body. You don't know. No, you don't know
Right.
what's good for you or right for you.
Right.
And it's funny because they're like, well, it's not, it's, because you're going to kill everybody around you. So you can't, it's not choice or freedom.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Ooh,
because yeah, they're good intention.
mm,
So before we stop, I also wanted to, speaking of hookers, which is the
yeah.
hardest transition in the world, but there's this thing I saw in your link tree called Hookers for Jesus, which is just like automatically the name. I'm like, yes. So can you please talk
Yeah.
about that just a little bit?
Oh, I love them. So I'm not like involved in any way with them. I am just a person who loves their work and tries to tell other people about them. So Hookers for Jesus is a ministry founded by Annie Lobert. She actually has a book that she wrote about her life in the sex industry. So she got out of it, and she decided she wanted to rescue other people out of this industry who were trapped in there. And instead of just saying, okay, we're gonna rescue people and that's it, she's like, oh no, it's like boots on the ground. They are on the Las Vegas Strip. They're giving out info. They're trying to coordinate ways to help people get rescued out of this, because people like to go, oh, sex work is real work. People are just doing their job, but majority of those people are not working for themselves. That there is trafficking involved. There are pimps involved. They're not seeing that money, and they feel trapped and they can't get out of it. So they coordinate rescuing people out of these situations, and instead of just rescuing it and being like, you're good, they have a safe house called Destiny House, where and it's not like they're giving them the bare minimum. They're like, okay, no, we're going to give you counseling. There's a pool in the backyard you can hang out in. We're going to get you equine therapy. We're going to give you job training. We're going to buy your clothes so you can go on the job interview. We're going to support you in any way so that you don't basically panic and go back to this situation.
Right.
And we're going to give you security there so people can't come and get you. So I think and they're doing it from a faith-based perspective too. Because Hookers for Jesus, they're like, she's a former hooker, but it's also hook, in the Bible where it's like, I'll make you fishers of men. So I'm gonna hook the people for Jesus. Yeah. So they're kind of like turning that name around. And just amazing organization that does so many good things.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good to hear. Yeah. I mean, in my past, I've known and even dated a few people who have been in the sex industry. And obviously that comes with a lot of different facets to it. But almost always it was from a place of either insecurity and or powerlessness and or drugs and alcohol. And people, yes, I've met a few semi-sober people who still strip or whatever, but I don't know. Something about it doesn't. And hey, you're adults, go for it. But when I've seen that and I've known those women and known what their lives actually look like, they don't want to do that. Right. It's from a place of like, well, I could do this. It's cheap. And and a lot of that, by the fucking way, a lot of girls don't have you need to have a certain type of vibe to even be into that, a certain type of what you're willing to put up with. And it's a small percentage. And usually it's women who have already been sexually abused when they were kids. And
I was just about to say, there's already a psychological trauma or damage happening that, it's not your random person off the street in most of those situations. And like you were saying, you're like, oh, people like to think, oh, I'll just do some stripping, that it's innocent. It's nothing else. But people get trafficked out of strip clubs. I think it's like one of the biggest places where they start pulling their people out of, because they know that a lot of these women are in vulnerable situations and that they could exploit them.
Right. And the dark energy. I mean, trust your gut, everybody. I mean, like when I've rarely been in those situations, sure, you can get distracted by like, oh, girls, but pay attention. If you pay attention to your gut, you're like, something's off here. Something's off. This is not, I don't even want to say right moral, but like something's not good for me. Something's not good for them. Something's not good for these other men I'm in here
You feel it when you walk in there. It's in the air. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rare that it's just like, yeah, I love God. Here's my nipples. Like it's very, like, you know what I'm saying?
But I'm sorry to just jump in before and that's what I think is also so disturbing about the OnlyFans thing. Like all these women like to say, oh, I'm a sex worker because I have an OnlyFans. It's like, no. You're trying to normalize something that you're not actually a part of. Showing your titties online does not make you of that same category of people. So why are you promoting it as if you know what everybody goes through? Gosh, I hate I hate that whole OnlyFans culture. And it's the feminists that are coming in and saying, look, I'm gonna make money off my body, and my husband is okay with it. He's taking the pictures.
Right. Or even I'll tell you this too. In this, as libertarian as I am, go for it, whatever, if you're an adult. But I'll say that same thing as like 16, 17, year olds shouldn't be allowed to make life altering decisions about their body. I'm sorry, but I was 29 and thought I didn't want kids. And now I'm 36 and I really fucking want kids. So if I had to make a surgery that made me never be able to have kids, same thing as trans stuff. Yeah. There you go. So girls who are like 20, 19, who are like, oh, I'll show my whole body. Yeah. And I can never get those pictures gone ever. They're no longer mine. right? Just like my music, people can steal it and move it and snap it up and, and stream it and da-da-da-da. It's no longer mine, right?
Yeah, once it's out there,
That,
it's out there.
right. That content, it's not
Mhm.
yours anymore. And I'm sorry as well, especially I'm sure they feel in the beginning, but like, oh, that's all my body, looking at my body is worth is $10.
Yeah.
How could that be good for your soul, baby? I
Yeah.
mean,
Joe
I don't
cost
know.
on you. Yeah, that is creepy. I never thought about it from that perspective. Yeah, like the value for yourself. And I'm sure that translates into every other behavior in your life.
Right. I mean, and I feel it too. Like, I feel it too, just doing this goddamn show. I'm like, I work real hard for this show.
Uh-huh.
I work real hard for my music. I do memes and the bullshit and the editing and the booking and I fucking, and I'm giving it away for free, everybody. Yeah, I got a few Patreon. Yeah, I get some tips. Yeah, okay, whatever. Thanks for the follows. But like, ultimately, sometimes I feel kind of fucking cheap. You know
Mm,
what I mean? I love it. So that's a big,
yeah.
fulcrum. And I'm growing, and I wouldn't stop even if I had less fans, because
Mhm.
I'd love doing what I'm doing. But yeah, sometimes I feel fucking cheap with this shit, right? Because I'm working hard as a mother. I can't imagine if it was me showing my body, right?
Yeah.
This thing that has a lot of fucking value, right? Um, to motherfuckers and like, oh, because she put it on sale for $6.99 instead of $8.99, now I'll sign up. Like, and you're like, that's what made you is a $2 difference. Like, who the fuck, you know what I mean? That's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. And it
So,
also telling of the men who's on there who think that they're, building this relationship and this back and forth with these women.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes,
Sorry, am I insulting anybody in the chat?
no, and I don't feel insulted when because I do every once in a while support an OnlyFans girl,
Mhm.
but I remember the last few times I signed up, maybe a month ago, I honestly like I was kind of feeling like, oh, let me like help this girl. Like there's
So
almost like an element of charity. I'm not fucking starting no goddamn relationship with none of these bitches,
is
but
this Puerto Rican male savior syndrome?
God damn it. You're baldest, Ashley. But no, like a piece of it is just like, I feel bad that she's like giving this shit away. Maybe this is right for her. And yeah, sure, I do want to see her nip. So, it's $10. What, I don't know. I'm rich.
Yeah. Maybe I'm a little heartless. Maybe I'm like, it's her problem. Let it get zero.
I know. But hey, it also is the longer we can, maybe that helps her hit bottom, whatever. But I also am I don't know, shit's complicated. And that's why I always kind of make this, I appreciate the show's called Conservatish and, it's what it is, because I like knowing I change things, whatever, but I trust my gut, and if that means I make a decision that sometimes or say things that sometimes my fans don't like, I'm like, okay, good for you. If that means you need to leave, I send you away with love. But I'm not, I'm beholden to God, and that's it. Like I'm not beholden to nobody else,
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. Better
So
not to
anyway,
box yourself in. Yeah, no, but I don't mean to keep you any longer. But this is what I find interesting. And have you found this the same thing too? Like I feel like initially I would self-edit with certain things, and then just past the point, the more you do this and get used to it, and you're like, whatever at this point.
right.
Like I'll let them know how I feel about this, what's gonna happen. And anyone who doesn't want to speak to me after that, well, maybe they weren't my friend or, or a good follower to begin with, on YouTube. Like I feel like a lot of my friends didn't know the way I think because I just didn't want to, I don't know. I don't want to debate it. I don't want to talk about it. But now I'm like, whatever. If they can't handle it, their problem. I don't
Right.
care. Maybe they weren't they weren't that great to begin with.
Right. And what you and I put out is obviously same thing we're talking about. It's no longer ours,
Yeah.
but it is meant for a certain, audience. And if
Hmm.
people don't want that audience, they don't have to sign up. I have some of my deepest friends are dirtbag leftists and
Hmm.
can't stand my show, but we maintain the relationship because they don't follow me. They can't follow me, right? And I don't want to
Yeah.
fucking follow them, right?
It's
White
nice.
motherfuckers.
Instead of policing your content, they're like, we're gonna agree to disagree.
Yeah, and let's
Yeah.
talk about, girls and, life and music and comedy and the things that God, and let's, keep that relationship paramount,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So, yeah, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I
That
love
was
this.
fun. Thank you.
An hour and fucking 18 minutes and went by real fast.
Yeah, well, I
Um,
appreciate you having me on. It's been a fun conversation.
Absolutely. And let me know when you're moving to Austin.
I'm a Northeastern girl.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's gonna fall. You remember that Tool song? What was it? Schism? No, it was the one with Arizona Bay, where he's talking about oh, it's a Bill Hicks joke where like he hopes that the earthquake does happen and just all of Los Angeles falls into the ocean and they call it Arizona Bay. That's what I'm thinking. New York's God's gonna smite you motherfuckers down.
Are you from here originally?
I was born in Long Island. Yeah.
Okay, so you're not okay. So you're not being insulting.
No.
I don't know. I know a lot of people feel that way, but I'm like, it's special here. Okay, and I'm sorry. I know you keep trying to leave, and I still keep catching you. We got too much to talk about. But here's the thing that makes it very hard for me to give up on New York, or not give up New York, I should say. Is that at its core we are a red state. We're a red state at its core. Not that I think red states are any better. I still am suspicious of them. Sometimes I feel like in New York, better the devil, so you're not letting your guard down in a red state. But I'm like, at its core, we are a red state. It's all those transplants and rejects who come in from other cities because they think they're too good and progressive for their city. They come into New York, feel like they're New Yorkers, and then they turn everything blue. They start buying the houses upstate. And I'm like, we get a bad rap as New Yorkers, but I'm like, it's not us. It's the outsiders who come in and want to pretend to be us.
Yes. So I was born in Long Island, moved out to the Bay Area when I was like 9 and spent most of my life over there. Kids Smith, Leonard, Perry, Ferguson, Curlnat, Timms, whoever the hell you are. He or she says, love the show. Thanks for being authentic and telling it like it is. I love you too, but that is the longest name in the world. And Ada says, women's live movement is the worst thing that happened to women. I mean, come on. Like, I know it wasn't good for us to hit you, but like, once we stop hitting you, but like, does that mean we throw the baby out with the bathwater? Come on now. Anyway, and by the way, just as a motherfucking side, I mean, there's so many times throughout history where you can look through old legal records where like someone who is an abusive husband gets beat in the fucking streets. You think that everybody was just signing off on rape and beating up until like 1967? Come on, y'all, stop. In Roman times, people were fucking getting in trouble for that shit. So, and rightfully so. But anyway, what were we talking about? So I was born in Long Island, moved out to the Bay Area when I was 9, spent most of my life over there. But, I got family. I'm Puerto Rican. All Puerto Ricans come from New York, right? And I moved back to the Manhattan when I was about 2019, right before the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
So, and then I moved there for music, because there's no music in San Francisco, and pandemic happened, couldn't do nothing about it. But I spent the entirety of the pandemic, all the mandates, whatever, in Manhattan, Upper West motherfucking side, dirtbag, white transplant from Connecticut, Upper West side. And I agree. That's the exact thing that is killing New York. Yeah. My personal experience was, and I respect yours and everybody else's, because I'm friends with, I had a girl on last week. What's her damn name? Joy Amanda, who's an activist over there, and she feels called by God to stay, and God bless you, go for it. For me, it was, there's no music happening, and I want to start getting my home in order to, have some cows and some chickens and some whatever, and be in a place where I can play music and, not be as expensive and. So for me, it was the right thing to go.
Yeah. It sounds yeah.
Right. And like you're saying, it's the transplants and the whatever who give New York a bad name. I totally agree with that. For me, it was like, okay, but how long am I going to wait for New York to pull its head out of its ass? I can't personally.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think it's like, going to be saved. But I guess that's, just attached to it. I say that I'm emotionally attached to my little corner of dystopia. It's hard to give it up. Because I do have that love for that region. But no, it makes sense. For some people, it completely makes sense to leave. Like what you're doing, the music. What music industry is there in New York anymore?
Broadway, and that's it. Yeah. And you have to be fully fucking boosted and all those things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on that. I'll keep you here another hour.
Right. But yeah, no, I made that decision and I'm really happy about it. And, I also will put in just a little, commercial. Texans have the same amount of independence. Fuck you. I'm going to do whatever I want that New York, that real New York has.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be as fun, like theatrical as Staten Island,
Mm-hmm.
but it is Staten, a whole state of motherfuckers who like, I wish a motherfucker would, like, it's that type of shit. And I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I
We
like
have more
even,
in common with Texas than we think.
oh yeah. I'm always telling these Austinites, I'm like, it's not New York transplants that are fucking, got you in danger. It's those LA pieces of shit.
Oh,
So
yeah.
anyway, thank you so much, Ashley. Can you please again tell people where to find you, my dear?
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. And before I do that, yeah, I just want to echo what Kid Smith said. Yeah, you have an awesome show, and thank you for the authenticity. So rare to find, but I guess again, because you're from New York, it's hard for us not to be authentic. So
You
yeah,
got it.
thanks for what you're doing and what you're getting out there in the world, and thank you for letting me promote. So so youtube.com/Ashley Esch now. I do a bunch of different things. My main thing is a live stream called High Strangeness. It's not super formal. It's this casual thing. Like I got a comment on there last week saying, "Oh, waste of time." Oh, because I'm not trying to lecture anybody on anything. It's just like we come in, we toss around ideas, I interact with the live chat, we talk about weird stuff. I've been exploring the Book of Enoch, so I'll do some live reads. So yeah, so that type of thing is what I do there. My social media that I'm most active on is Twitter. So my username is Ashley is Ash _. And I think my Instagram name is Ashley is Ash, but I don't use Instagram too much because that's where most of the people who know me in real life are. And, I don't know how much we tolerate each other right now at this moment in time.
Right.
So yeah, I think those are my main things. And then there's a link tree on my Twitter. But yeah, Hookers for Jesus, if you guys want a charity to support, they are awesome. I would definitely look into them.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate you doing this with me. And when you find someone who is exactly like you, but also willing to live in Texas, she's got a ring. Now, so thank you everybody for watching. This has been a great time. Wherever you're listening or watching, make sure you subscribe, share, rate, review, leave a comment. I swear, I know it's a Instagrammy influencer thing to say, but it does help the algorithm, and I need all the help I can get. I'm shadow banned to death up in this motherfucker. So let's fight these white liberals together. Leave a comment, rate it, review it. You can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano and on Twitter at Rule62Peter, and all my music and shit on Spotify and iTunes, and more music is coming soon. So yeah, love y'all, and I'll go ahead and end the broadcast. Bye.